Yahya Sinwar's capture could alter the ground situation in the Gaza Strip. He's a very influential man. He controls all Hamas fighters. Do you think if he's captured, that could result in, say, negotiations for the hostages?
I don't know. One of the reasons that they've taken this many hostages is they want a disproportionate return of their hostages. And Israel has a very clear policy of no negotiations. And I think that's a very clear policy. Where
in fact, there's that 1:1,000 ratio that Yahya Sinwar was one of the 1,000 Palestinians released for that one IDF soldier.
Right.
So
and
there
we've
could
done
be
that.
a swap.
We made the mistake in the IC-814 where we released people who later on went on to do. So we should have a very clear no negotiation policy, because the cost that you're paying subsequently is much higher.
Right.
You look at the devastation that's been caused here.
Yeah.
Now, what would have been, so frankly, and look at the lifestyle that these people lead. Even in the Jordanian Amman, where I was there, the Palestinians were very well-to-do.
Right.
The ones who live there, away from Gaza and West Bank, they live affluent lifestyles.
Right.
And Sinwar and his friends who are there controlling Hamas, which claim to represent the people of Palestine, they really don't represent, because they really value the people of Palestine. They wouldn't be putting them through this kind of a thing.
Right.
I think the first and foremost is you cannot fight a war, because a war, you must leave scope for negotiation.
Yeah.
And if the brutality is like there's no civilization, there's no race that will accept this kind of a brutality.
What about the hostages, Col Pillay? Now what's next?
Yeah, they expected them to be under some tunnel.
Under the hospital.
They've actually distributed them all over the area. Probably they have moved them away to some places.
So there are 200 plus 220 hostages that are unaccounted for. Do you believe that they're all distributed in small penny packets all over Gaza?
Yeah, obviously, because they wouldn't have kept them there. And it's a sad thing that they are holding, women, children, and that's something that is not acceptable.
Yes.
War has to be fought between combatants,
and
very clearly combatants have to be recognizable. You may be a non-state actor, but or you may be there's a non-international armed conflict where the armed combatants are supposed to be like they get the protection under the Geneva Conventions if you're very clearly combatants.
Yes.
So you can't claim to be a civilian at the same time while wielding a weapon.
Right.
So I think that you're deemed to be a combatant when you're actually using weapons and ammunition. So by holding hostages and not treating them under, it's not allowed. Civilians cannot be held. Human shields cannot be held. These are not rules of warfare.
So it's interesting what you're saying here is that what we are seeing in this war is literally every rule of conflict is being thrown aside, whether it's a kind of brutality on civilians, the fact that hospitals have been used to store hostages, and as Colonel here is showing us that they're being used to store weapons. How does this make this resolution of the Israel-Palestinian issue, how does it complicate that resolution? This kind of brutality, this level of violence?
I don't know whether you've heard about the David versus Goliath fight.
Yeah.
So even before the Philistines became Muslim, they really had a problem with the Israelites.
Right.
And, the fight that took place between David and Goliath, and the fight, he said, God is on our side. And so that apart, the very fact that once the Israeli state was created in 1948 after the British mandate ended, the entire Arab world coalesced for an attack on them. And that's the 1948 war. The United Nations TSO, Truce Supervision Organization, was there, and the people were killed in those things. Of course, it has never found peace. It's like biblical times, it has not found peace, whether it's David versus Goliath.
It's a perennial
zone. So I don't think even the Oslo I or the Oslo II or the accords that are there, where land for peace was the deal that is there, the Camp David Accords, or whether, I don't foresee an era where peace reigns in that region. Even if, there's a state called Iran that does not recognize the existence of Israel. And Hamas agenda is to eliminate the state of Israel. Now, how can you actually negotiate when you are a legitimate prey? Can you coexist if there's an animal in a room which is trying to eat a deer, or whatever? Like, I'm just giving an hyper. I'm not saying that anyone is a lion or a deer or whatever, but if there's no way that they could be put in the same enclosure, right? So now the only way that you can actually find a peace to this is through an enforcement of peace in which a larger force is present and capable of enforcing the truth. Because otherwise, on their own accord, I don't think the states there. You've seen the Egyptian accord that was there, the Camp David, and then of course later on Jordan made peace with them, and Saudi Arabia was inching towards a deal, and you had the Abraham Accords. But all this has been put into it because there is something about rallying for a cause of these people. But now if you look at the Palestinians now, other than Israel where they were there, Jordan was another place that they were given large amount of, when the West Bank was taken, they were given citizenship in that area. But they had the Black September revolt, one of the kings the king of Jordan was assassinated by a Palestinian, a tailor. And later on in 70 there was our neighboring state, Pakistan, General Zia-ul-Haq oversaw the massacre of a large number of them, and they were evicted from there, and they made...
But Col Pillay, on the ground today, you have a very substantial Israeli military presence. The Americans have said, President Biden, no less, has said that they should withdraw, and he doesn't see a military occupation of Gaza as being feasible, and he's emphasized the two-state solution, which is again something the government of India has been strongly pushing for. Do you see, what do you see next here? Do you think the Israeli military is going to withdraw from the Gaza Strip, or they're going to stay put? Or will there be another force that will come in?
When they withdrew from Gaza in the initial phases, they were very unpopular. They pulled out a large number of Jewish settlers from that area.
Yes, 2006.
Yeah, and they pulled out, and then the rocket attack started. Now, if you see that they had given an enclave, and if there was peace on the mind of the party that was there, they wouldn't have probably embarked on this kind of a course. Hamas has been elected, and they are supposed to represent the people of this thing. Of course, there will be no election thereafter. But the fact is that there is no peace possible. Let's be very practical, and I don't foresee a peace that between on their own accord, that they will say, okay, let's sit down, they eliminate
no peace possible between the Palestinians and Israel?
Not between the Palestinians, between the Hamas and Palestinians. Many of them now, and privately have admitted to me that personally they don't have. And I worked in Jordan with many of them personally said that they don't seem to have any problem with them. But it's the leadership that benefits, and the ones who are benefiting from this and living billionaire lifestyles are the ones who are living in Qatar and other places. So there is a profit to be made.
News 9 Plus. Download now.